It is no longer a hidden news that Africans, especially in diaspora, are rising up in their numbers in protest as well as in solidarity for the Burkina Faso president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. After a news broke out to the internet that the United States of American government were making, or rather are making, frantic efforts to arrest Captain Ibrahim Traoré, who is currently the president or the junta leader of Burkina Faso. This very news started filtering into the atmosphere, or rather into the internet, after General Michael Langley, who happened to be the head, or rather the chairman of the United States of American African Command, accused Captain Ibrahim Traoré of misusing Burkina Faso's gold reserve for personal security instead of to the entire benefit of the entire nation of Burkina Faso. That very accusation of misusing the gold reserve of Burkina Faso were met with a whole lot of counter criticism from the citizens of Burkina Faso as well as other African nationals, saying that Burkina Faso is a sovereign nation, who can decide how to go about their gold reserve. The United States of America should, as a matter of fact, respect that fact that Burkina Faso is a sovereign nation with a new leader who is reshaping the economic woes of Burkina Faso with intentional and visionary leadership. Well, the fact remains that Burkina Faso President Captain Ibrahim Traoré is certainly doing a great job. You know what I mean? Even though from the origin of time, I had earlier maintained my stand that I may not be an advocate of military regime or military governance because that time in history has passed. But owing to the level of decadence, political criminality, corruption and squandermania that this region of the world, African continent, has faced over the years, it becomes a little pertinent that in some cases, when military takes over, a lot of people will go out of their ways to give their support. You know what I mean? Because the civilian rule or democracy has not made us better in terms of bringing the dividends of democracy. Rather, it continues to worsen by the day, where the so-called political elite, of which I no longer regard them as elite because they are thinking backwards, they come back together under the same platform of criminal political structure and then continue to enjoy the resources of whichever countries in Africa where they find themselves and turn around to make us to blame the West. The question will always be, if the West are continually extorting us, who gives them the opportunity to extort us? Why would you fall as their victim if you are a man of integrity, a man who is visionary in leadership? Why would you fall to the whims and caprices of the West? After falling, taking bribes, turning around to stab your own people, you're not turning around to make us believe that the West is our problem. Yes, certainly they have been interfering with a lot of, governance in Africa. But who are the people giving them the opportunity to creep in, the opportunity to slide in? And that is where many Africans are now celebrating Captain Ibrahim Traoré, who has said no to the former colonial masters and many other Western allies whom they have had over the years. And at the moment, Captain Ibrahim Traoré is turning towards Russia. Russia has just signed, a military, alliance with Burkina Faso after their ministers had the meeting with the Russian government, and Russia promised to come in. In fact, Russia has started delivering, major and high performance military equipment to Burkina Faso, and they have also sworn that they are ready to provide training not only to Burkina Faso but as well as Niger and Mali. Don't forget that these three countries have pulled out of the ECOWAS bloc and formed what they call Alliance of Sahel States. In fact, they have equally rolled out their own passport And this passport they have rolled out now, is for the 3 countries. Simply means that people from Burkina Faso, people from Mali, people from Niger can travel across each other's country without restrictions. You know what I mean? This our brother who is a travel blogger, Wodemaya, visited the Minister of State, and he gave some insight concerning this passport. And more so, another news is equally trending now on the internet space, that China is also coming in to sign military alliance with Burkina Faso. That message or that information has not yet been 100% confirmed, but you must understand equally that since the year 2024, that China has started supplying military equipment, military armament to Burkina Faso. You know what I mean? Because since Burkina Faso cut off from their former colonial master, France, the last shipment or supplies of military weapons from France and the United States of America were between 2019 and 2021. And since then, China has taken over the supply of military equipment to Burkina Faso. So that is a bigger indication that China will not hesitate to have military alliance with Burkina Faso in order to deepen their presence, in the Sahel region as well as in Africa at large. But one bigger question remains. While the former colonial masters of Burkina Faso are being kicked out of that region, as well as the United States of America, and China and Russia are now coming in, the bigger question would be, are they not coming for the same purpose? I have said it before. The moment Burkina Faso and their state of alliance, Niger and Mali, breaks away from France and the rest of the West, Africa becomes a new target ground for the rest of the West, including China and Russia. But then, Ibrahim Traoré is charting up a new trajectory of leadership, and I believe equally to some extent that for the fact that he has his reasons why he pulled out of their former colonial masters, that will send a signal to both Russia and China that this young man is out for a serious business. However, the only thing that we must always bear in our mind is that military regime may not be the best. So until we begin to take accountability of our political leadership, which seems to be impossible because of human weaknesses, because of people's commitment and greed to money, it becomes almost impossible to hold our politicians accountable. But until then, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, I think, needs to be protected at all costs. At this point, I will allow you guys to be the judge. Don't forget to let me know what you think in the comment section and share this video. Man, another person, Siam. God bless you.